A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining our Homeopathy 24/7 podcast. We are going to be speaking to an array of international guests who will share their knowledge and experiences of homeopathy with you. We will discuss all types of subjects such as remedies, symptoms, and stories of health. No matter where you are with your homeopathic journey, we aim to inspire you on your quest to natural health and living. The podcast is brought to you by Greensmith, the founder of Homeopathy 24/7, which is a global platform connecting you with a homeopath wherever you are in the world, 24 hours a day. So let's get started with today's chat. Please welcome Mary Greensmith.
Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's so lovely to see you. And I'm so pleased to be able to welcome Tracy. Tracey Campbell is one of our homeopaths on Homeopathy 24/7. It's lovely to have you here, Tracy.
Thank you. It's really good to be here and to have this opportunity to talk with you.
Now, you've been a homeopath quite a while. You've got quite a busy practice.
I have. I graduated in 2005 and then I was practicing for a little while, part-time, still doing my full-time job in London. And then sadly my dad died. I mean, he'd been sick through my final year of college, but it was just, when we're a homeopath, you have to listen to people, you have to be present. And I found at that time it was a little bit too much, so I stopped. And then during that time, I think once a homeopath, always a homeopath. I was treating friends and helping, giving remedies to my horses and my dog, and just carried on using homeopathy. And then a few years ago, I decided, well, I say a few years ago, it's almost 10 years ago now, I decided to just give up my corporate job and do homeopathy full time. And it's amazing. It doesn't even feel like work.
No, that's just
because I love it so much.
We're so lucky, aren't we?
Very lucky, really lucky. And I think because no case is the same.
Yeah.
So you might have 5 people come to you with eczema, and you won't be giving them all the same remedy, and you have to sit and you have to work out the case, look at things that have been going on. And then when you look at those 5 cases, they will all have different remedies. Not necessarily all of them, but potency might be different, frequency of prescribing might be different. So I just like that because you can never get bored.
No, exactly. I suppose every day is a completely new thing, isn't it? You don't know what's going to come up. So it's really interesting for me because I know that you've just started a new Facebook group, which is Homeopathy for Skin, which is so amazing. And I'm so excited about this opportunity. And I think, oh, it's really good to niche. But this is just such a huge subject, isn't it? That, well, where do you start?
It is a huge subject. It's, I mean, interestingly, we're asking people questions when they come in.
Okay.
And eczema is there a lot.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other things. I mean, if you think about sunburn, think about how our skin changes with aging, allergies or reactions to certain plants.
Yeah.
It is really huge, and lots of people are already starting to ask questions. And fungal infections, it is a huge subject actually.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting,
isn't it?
See what that group.
And just those topics that you've talked about affects people in different ways, don't they? So they might actually have a fungal infection for years and years and years, and it's niggly, but it's not, life upsetting. It's not distressing, so it never gets resolved.
Exactly.
And obviously, just something like that, it makes you think, well, what is the cause of that? Because it's not actually the fungal that what's happening to the skin that needs to be cured, is it? It's something underlying. And I guess that's the same with all skin things.
Yeah. I think with skin things, because skin is on the outside of our body, and it's such a big organ.
Yeah.
People, when they see something on their skin, if they're not familiar with homeopathy and how the law of cure works, they might put a cream on it and it might miraculously disappear, and they think it's okay. But
Yeah.
what they don't realize is it's going in deeper.
Yeah.
But as far as they're concerned, this cream has helped whatever it was bothering them has left. So they're quite happy. But then with the things like fungal things that are going on, it's usually a sign that something isn't balanced within the body. So it isn't just when someone comes to see a homeopath for skin, we look at the whole person. And then when we start asking questions, you can usually see, you know, when it started and what was going on at the time. And it isn't necessarily always just the skin we're helping.
That's really interesting. So let's just dive a little bit deeper into that, because as you say, skin is the largest organ, and we're going to notice when something's not quite right, and it's a physical symptom. And we know that mainstream medicine will concentrate on getting rid of that physical symptom. Well, you've got a rash, let's get rid of the rash. But we know different, don't we?
We do. And I think, I mean, I learn so much from my patients as well, because let's take again eczema, for example.
Yeah.
You know, you see young babies with nappy rash, and then the mum puts on the nappy cream that helps, and it goes. And then a few months, maybe later, when they go on solids, they might start to develop eczema. And that could be because of the solids, or it could be for many things. But again, most people will go to their GP, and as you rightly said, conventional medicine will give something to get rid of that disturbance on the skin. So then that's gone, fantastic, everyone's happy. But a few months, maybe a few years later, we might start to see things going on with asthma. Because it's the lungs, the skin, the bowels, they're our waste disposal of the body.
Yeah.
And if the body can't express itself, which it does through things coming up on our skin, then it's going deeper into the body and then disturbing the lungs.
So let's talk about some of those causes. What might be some examples of disturbance of the skin? What really needs to be treated with eczema, with fungal, with why is your body doing this? Let's just talk about some of the experiences that we've seen.
Okay, so when you see something on the skin, it's usually a disturbance and something is slightly out of balance within the body. Now, as a homeopath, we don't look at diagnosis. We don't diagnose. The body talks to us.
Yeah.
So if something's on the skin, we might look at diet. What might have been going on at the time? Stress plays a huge role in skin. You might see someone that has had psoriasis, which is an autoimmune condition, but they can get that into remission. But if they're stressed, that may come up. And hormones play a big part.
Of course.
Certain times of the month, people might get breakouts. As we get older, age spots, skin becomes duller. So that there's all these things. And as a homeopath, we look at what's going on at somebody's time of life, what might have been going on when those symptoms appeared. With children, sometimes it could be something as simple as cutting dairy out. And a lot of parents notice a big improvement when they do that, but that isn't always the culprit.
No.
So it's just looking at the whole person. Also, location plays a big part, where it is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? One of the first questions that we always ask is, have you had this before? Is this something that's, come back, or has it just started? And our health history plays a big part in what's happening to us now, doesn't it? So often we're asking, well, what's been happening the last few years?
Yes, and it's interesting how when you just mentioned that question, when we say, have you had this before?
Mm.
And probably 9 times out of 10, they have.
Yes.
Because they've tried lots of things and they've worked, but whether they're stressed or certain things are happening in their life, those symptoms come back because they were never healed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So they never dealt with it, and that could be their weak spot, their susceptibility. We've all got our weak spots and susceptibilities to certain things.
Of course. So we might well have been born with a susceptibility, with an inherited susceptibility. And how can we, as homeopaths, how can we help strengthen inherited susceptibilities?
Just by when I help people, we take the full history, we take the full family medical history, which gives us lots of insight.
Yeah.
And I've seen with remedies, with good holistic, with constitutional prescribing, where you're treating the whole person, that person begins to just, the incidences of their symptoms the gaps become larger.
Uh-huh.
Eventually they might not have these things, eventually they just fall away.
Yeah.
And then their whole system, their whole immune system just becomes stronger.
So basically what you're saying is we are finding a remedy that matches the physical symptom that's happening now, the constitutional whole being, the inherited weakness, putting all of those things together. And not only are we going to help strengthen this weakness and the immunity so that in years in the future, it's not going to keep coming back because the body will know how to reset itself.
Yes. And the body just becomes, they're more able to just deal with anything. It becomes more resilient, basically.
Okay. So because obviously anything on the skin is a weakness, isn't it? And so to build resilience, it might be building an allergy resilience. And you mentioned before about milk allergy, or just intolerance rather than allergy. But it could be anything. And what we're looking at is strengthening the body so that it is less reactive in this way. So as well as not creating a skin symptom, because your body is more resilient, it means your overall health is better.
Exactly. And also with when people, we've all got, as I said, we've all got our weak spots. But then if we strengthen the whole person, when whatever triggers brings those weak spots up, so say their eczema comes back when they're stressed or when they eat certain foods, gradually as their immune system becomes stronger and we look at all these things that are going on with them, their body is able to cope with any stresses or anything that is causing that disturbance on the skin.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
It is.
Let's talk for a moment about the repertory, because I think that if we look up skin, we're going to see pages and pages and pages and pages of different ways to express your symptom. And I'm just going to grab my repertory here and bring up, you find one as well, bring up skin, just so that we can give people an idea of how big this is. So I've got a Murphy's Repertory, and it starts on page 1777, and it goes
Oh,
on. The next one is Sleep and Dreams. It goes on to 1841. So it's over 1,000 pages. Is that 700, 800, 100 pages? 100 pages of skin symptoms. So let's just read out a couple of different ways that people might experience different skin things. Oh, that's nice. Birthmarks, smooth birthmarks, or spidery birthmarks. That's interesting, isn't it? There are different remedies that are coming up there. Bruises, some of the differentials between bruising, crushing of as mashed fingers, contused, bruised, blunt, with blunt instruments, lacerations or without lacerations. Tissues are affected. The nerve tissues are affected with the bruising. Oh, you'll like this one. Whilst on horseback.
yes. But again, looking at those bruising, like most people think, oh, a bruise. But as you say, was it caused through a blunt instrument, through a sharp instrument, cutting? It's there's so much to look at.
And we always think of arnica,
Yes.
but actually under bruises, and it's also saying see ecchymosis as well. So we'll have to look to see if there are other remedies. But just under bruising itself, we have got 3, 6, 9. So 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 6. Over 70 remedies.
I'm on the ecchymosis.
Oh, you're on the ecchymosis. Okay.
Yeah.
So is that coming up as about the same?
I would say it's about the same, but then it says during fever or returning yearly.
Okay.
Sensation, what does it feel like? So there's so much. And I mean, arnica's there, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's the hamamelis as well.
Yeah.
Ledum's there.
Yeah. Bellis perennis. We don't think about Bellis perennis very often, do we? But it's such a deep remedy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. For deep bruising.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody has had surgery and they've cut into those muscles deeper.
Yeah.
Deep into the body. It's a really good bruise remedy.
And that's just the common garden daisy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful? I wonder if they use that in herbal remedies.
I think so, yeah.
Do you? The trouble is with us homeopaths is we get so engrossed in homeopathy we don't look any further, do we? But I'm sure
we've got enough to look at.
We have enough to go through all of the different 100 pages of different ways that you can be experiencing changes in your skin, and it is just incredible how we can look. So let's have a look at Impetigo, because that's bringing together a number of things, isn't it? And of course,
it is.
We've got different positions on the body will lead to different remedies.
Exactly. And also how Impetigo, because it can be very dry and dry and bobbly and bleeding, and then it can also be oozing as well. So you then have to look at how the body is showing those symptoms. It isn't just, oh, we've got Impetigo.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because as well as that, a remedy might work for you once, and then what might happen is it might change. And then it might be time actually to go on to a different remedy because the skin has changed, the body has made the change that you asked for, but it's not quite enough to actually clear it. And you might need a second remedy that comes in there. But yeah, interesting. Impetigo on the forehead, Ancrud, Creosotum, Ledum, Mercviv, Rustox, Sepia, Sulfur. It's just wonderful, isn't it? And of course, we would think of a lot of those remedies anyway, but just to go through, let's compare a couple of those remedies in a Materia Medica, because I know that the difference between sepia is usually a sort of wet or moist eczema and reaction, isn't it? Whereas something like rustox might be
Normally
well,
bumpy and
yeah,
itchy
swollen.
and red and swollen. Yeah.
Yeah. So just the way that you are experiencing the symptom. So what we're doing is taking what the repertory is suggesting, and that might be 60 or 70 different remedies, and then we're comparing them to see which one matches the symptoms there. And that is why we always said we need more than one symptom, because one symptom for us to compare 70 remedies is going to take us a little while, isn't it? So if we had 3 or 4 symptoms or 5 or 6 symptoms, then we're just going to compare the remedies that come up in all of those symptoms.
That's a big help, because then, as you say, you come down to 4 or 5 remedies, then you can start to differentiate, and then you can match how that person is, and you can just think, oh, that remedy really suits that person. So you're not just giving for those skin symptoms as well, and they may have some other symptoms as well that they've mentioned. They might be getting migraines or tummy aches or upset tummies.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. What would be another symptom that we could consider with eczema? Because a lot of people fall down on this because they think, well, I've got that, but I've always had that. It's not connected. But sometimes we believe it is connected, don't we?
Totally connected. For example, they could have really loose bowels.
Yeah.
Have to get up first thing in the morning, 5 o'clock, and go straight to the toilet. Other people might be very constipated, so therefore they've got congestion within their system. So again, you'd look at the skin symptoms, you would look at their digestion, their bowel movements, other things. How do they sleep?
Yeah. And of course, their emotions.
Yes.
How are they feeling about this?
Yeah.
Really irritated and upset, or really angry, or just a bit lethargic at the moment.
Yeah.
That would all lead to a different remedy, wouldn't it?
Yes. So
And
exactly, you'll have 5 people with 5, with one thing.
Yeah.
And because they'll all be different people you're helping.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're asking about the skin symptom, then we're asking about everything else so that we can get 5 or 6 symptoms to put all together.
Yes.
Because everything is connected, and emotionally and physically. And of course, the skin thing is a physical thing, but it is often highly related to the emotions, isn't it? So quite often we will see a skin reaction when we are more stressed, or when we are grieving, or when we are angry. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because our hormones change.
Yes.
And our skin's connected to everything. So okay, we've established that it is connected, and to our digestion, which we mentioned earlier as well. And then right at the beginning, you mentioned that the potency might be different. Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Yes. So sometimes if somebody is really uncomfortable, and I'm going to use eczema as another example, if somebody's really uncomfortable and they're really itchy and scratching, and I might give them something very low potency daily to help them with that itch.
Yeah.
While we're working at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of potencies, they range from 3C right up to 10, or even 50 M. I tend to err on the side of caution with skin. I tend to start low and just see. And again, we might only give one remedy once a week for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or I may sometimes give them a bowel nosode.
Okay. To
So
help.
it really just depends.
Yeah.
And I match that with what's going on with the person.
Of course.
Because, you know, are they, as you said before, if they're really irritable and really, they're probably going to be using up the remedy quite quickly. If they're, you know, there's so much to take into consideration. But sometimes people say, well, what potency was that? And it's like, well, say 30C. I gave a 30C.
Yeah.
And then they might want to say, oh, well, if I try that, will it work for me? But they might need a 200C or a 6C.
Yes, yeah, it could go either way, as well as being a different remedy, of course, for them. And what, because the skin is a sensitive organ, isn't it? We don't need anything flaring. We don't need it getting worse before it gets better. We need to be as gentle as we possibly can. And of course, in the organon, Hahnemann's saying all of the time, you know, it is little, less is more, as little as we can and as gently as we possibly can.
Especially with skin,
Yeah. Now, obviously, sometimes this is really difficult for people to grasp because, let's face it, our skin regenerates every 4 months anyway. And we're not suppressing it and sending it in. What we're actually asking the body is to change something inside, and it has to come out through the skin. So it could feel better within hours or days, but it could actually take a bit longer, couldn't it? Something like acne or something like that, it could take longer.
I mean,
changing that inside.
Acne, anything, sometimes, you know, I expect to work, if it's a long-term thing, I would expect to work with somebody for 6 months at least.
Okay.
To possibly, in really bad eczema cases, maybe 2 years. But in all that time, you would be expecting to see change.
Yeah.
And as you said, it might not necessarily, they might feel better,
Yeah.
but it's still present.
Because it's not the skin that we're healing, really, is it?
Yes.
It is the reason that the skin is showing us a symptom. So to differentiate that from Western medicine, what we're saying is we're not going to put a plaster on it. We're actually going to go into the body and we're going to rewire it so that the body does something different, so that this isn't going to come back next year or the year after or the year after. And that you're not going to have it change into asthma or rheumatoid arthritis later down the road.
And once that change happens, it's you've cleared it from inside out.
Yeah.
So it's clear, whereas all the time you're putting those sticking plasters on, it's got nowhere to go.
No, it's just going inside, and it'll find another way. Something else different will come back.
Yeah. Because it's the body just knocking and saying, look, something's not right here. And we might ignore those little signs. We all do it, you know, and it'll knock a bit harder, then a bit harder, until we do stop and listen.
Yes, exactly. So the symptom is there trying to say, stop, something needs to change. And we all lead such busy lives that we think, oh, just go away. I won't need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do the other. But that might be the issue itself, mightn't it? So what is it going to take to actually have that fundamental big change so that your body can flourish in the world that we live in?
I think, you know, people, once they've discovered homeopathy and once they've used it and had a really good result with it, and, you know, that may take time. It isn't, you know, you go to the doctors, you get a tablet and you take them for a few weeks and you're okay. Once they feel better, they start to look at homeopathy for all other things, start helping their family, their children, and then they can't imagine having life without homeopathy.
exactly what
You know,
I
they
just
think, how did I ever
ever
live
can.
without this amazing system of medicine?
Yeah, because it makes us think in a different way, doesn't it?
Totally, totally.
It makes us see things differently. It makes us understanding. It helps us research things because suddenly we have created curiosity in this symptom. It's not just a rash on the
Yeah.
hand. It's actually thinking, oh my God, what is my body doing? Why is my body doing that? What is my body trying to tell us?
It's clearly sending a signal. So you then start to connect with your body because,
Yeah.
again, when I'm working with people, I ask them to keep a note of things, how, you know, what, when it changes and everything. And when they come for their follow-up and I ask the questions, they go, oh, and they didn't, because they're not used to looking at things like that. The next time they come, they've made really good notes,
Yes.
huge notes, like a happy face, a smiley face, you know, things like that to jog their memory. And then they start connecting with their body more.
Yes.
So it's such an amazing, thing to watch when they start connecting with their body and listening, and then that alone helps with
Of course.
their symptoms.
Because then they're starting to notice in a completely different way.
And they're listening to their body.
Yes, yes, yes. Rather than listening to alarm clocks and rushing from place to place, but thinking, what does my body need here?
Yeah, they kind of become one with their body again. They kind of ground themselves and think, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And they don't look to the outside, they start listening to their body and the signs. But it's quite remarkable to see when they come for the first follow-up and then you ask them questions, they go, I really should have made better notes. But it's because they're not used to looking at the body that way.
Nobody has ever asked them the questions that we ask. It's a great journey, isn't it?
Amazing. And it's what's lovely is seeing so many more people wanting to learn about homeopathy and learn about the remedies and how it can help them, even in everyday life. So,
Tracy, it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I do hope you've enjoyed these episodes, and I do hope you can subscribe to our channels. Now, there are various ways for you to listen to our podcast or watch it on video on YouTube. So whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, please do subscribe and please do leave us a review. If you leave us a review on these platforms, then more people will see our podcast. We just want more people to share the joy of homeopathy. It's a choice that everybody should know about. Please do everything you can to help us help more people.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and look forward to listening to our next one. Please don't forget to follow our podcast on your chosen channel, and please do leave us a review so we can continue to share homeopathy with as many people as possible. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us on any of our social platforms mentioned in the show notes. We at Homeopathy 24/7 hope to empower you on your natural health journey.